Toby, behave.
Okay, everyone. It's 12:30, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to turn it over to our chapter president, Ed Ronan.
Good afternoon. Thanks, everyone, for coming. We're all very excited. We had 45 people register for this event, which is great for a virtual event. We had a board meeting earlier today, so a couple updates there. One thing, and I don't think I've done that, Patrick King, I just wanted to thank him for the work he did last year in the beginning of COVID. The problem is he's going to end up with more meetings in person than I'm going to have, I think, which is a shame. But Patrick, seriously, thank you for all your hard work last year and efforts in definitely a challenging time. A few dates just to keep on your calendar. Obviously, Virtual World Conference. Majority of the board is going to that. We were talking earlier today, March 8th to the 12th. Our April events, we're still in a very questionable time. For instance, in Montgomery County, where some of the clubs are and I'm at, we just got indoor dining back 2 weeks ago. We're at limits of 10 people indoors, 25 people outdoors, and Montgomery County is where our spring tournament is. It's May 17th at Manor Country Club is our charity classic. So there'll be more information coming out. We're 99.9% certain we're holding it. It's just, watch your email for what that might look like. Our April food and beverage workshop, we'll postpone the workshop portion, but April 12th will still happen with a beverage tasting, maybe some tequila tasting. So it should be a fun event. We're just finalizing the time on the 12th for that. We really do appreciate your understanding and flexibility the last, I guess we're going on 12 months of what you're facing with at work, we're facing with in trying to figure out, we all want to be in person. I do anyways. But just trying to figure out how much virtual to have when we get back to normal. We're already working on next year's education calendar. So part of today's agenda, I want to welcome Jeff Morgan, who all of you know, President and CEO of CMAA, a lot of letters there. He's actually going to install us. The board typically has a board installation dinner. Some of you have probably been to it. Again, this year we couldn't do it. So as a formality, so that we're probably operating properly, Jeff will install us. Mr. Morgan, thank you.
Yes. So your peers have chosen to elect you to the governing body of this chapter of CMAA. With this honor comes the responsibility of providing your leadership during the next year. You will build upon the efforts of countless other individual managers who have volunteered before you to build a quality environment in which club managers will not only work, but thrive. You can have great influence upon the future of this chapter and your industry if you devote the time, talent, and hard work necessary to improve the club industry for yourself, your peers, and future managers who will then build upon your work. Your job will not always be easy. This is certainly a time where it's not always easy, but it is important. If you are fully aware of and accept these responsibilities, listen to this oath of office, and if you agree, indicate by saying, "I will." Please raise your right hands. I pledge to perform the responsibilities of my elected position to the best of my ability and to devote the time, talent, and work necessary to achieve success in this endeavor. I further pledge to uphold the bylaws and code of conduct and ethics of the Club Management Association of America. If you so pledge, please respond by saying, "I will."
I will.
I will.
I will.
You have been so installed. Congratulations and thank you.
High five, team.
The magic of Zoom as the boxes come and go.
In the meantime, we'll just turn up everybody's picture, and then Jeff, you can start whenever you're ready.
Okay. Well, I am delighted to be here. I have participated in one of your in-person Masters series, so it's great to actually be the moderator of this session. And one of the advantages of doing this via Zoom is that we can bring people in from all over the country. And this is certainly just that, as our panelists today are from all over the country. So with that, I want to, our three panelists, and as I see them on my screen, Passion Graham is Clubhouse Manager for Desert Mountain Club. And I'm going to ask each of you to give a little bit of your background, since I'm not sure everybody knows you. And then we have Casey Newman, CCM, who's the Club Manager at River Oaks Country Club in Houston. And I should have said Passion is out in Scottsdale, Arizona. And then last is Miles Tucker, CCM, who's the General Manager at Hillcrest Country Club in Los Angeles. So as a starting point, why don't we just give a 60-second elevator pitch on who we are and where. Tell us a little bit about your club history. So Passion, you can go first.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. My name is Passion Graham, and I started in clubs in 2014 at Charlotte Country Club, and was there for almost 5 years, and from there was recruited to Highland Country Club and was there just under a year before coming out here to Arizona, to Desert Mountain, under the leadership of Damon Diorio. We have 7 clubhouses, 7 golf courses. We have 10 food and beverage outlets. So a really small, tiny club up here in Scottsdale, and really enjoying it, loving the weather, and yeah, happy to be here.
Thanks, Passion. Casey?
Awesome. Hi, everyone. I started in clubs when I was a toddler. No, in all seriousness, I am a second generation club manager. I've been around the business my entire life. Personally, graduated from Florida State University, went to work for Club Corp for a brief stint at a school, and I'm now on my 7th club at River Oaks. Loving my time here. It is truly a magical place. We have 1,600 members, 18 holes of golf, plus another smaller short course, swimming, tennis, 16 tennis courts. We are the host of the U.S. Men's Clay Courts Championship every year, tennis tournament, very large scale operation, $33 million total, $13 million in food and beverage. In a typical year, very busy all the time. I am a mother to a little 5-year-old little boy named Branson, and I will be serving you in just a few short weeks as on the national board. Welcome, everyone.
Thanks, Casey. And you get to fulfill a couple firsts on the national board. You get to be the first AGM on the national board that we're aware of, and you get to be the first daughter of a prior national board member. So that's pretty awesome to see that second generation not only go through club management, but come on the national board too. So
thanks, Jeff.
Happy
to fill both of those roles.
Yeah. And Miles Tucker, give us your 60-second elevator pitch.
I'm glad you reminded me for just 60 seconds, Jeff. Good morning, everybody. My first job was a dishwasher at the age of 16 at a country club. I then completed formal education at Cardiff Business School, where I got a degree in business administration with a major in hospitality management. Cut my teeth in 5-star hotels in London, and then had the opportunity to do a professional development program at Cornell University. At Cornell, I met a gentleman called Jeff Hasley, who about a year later dragged me into the club business. Between hotels and clubs, I spent some time in casinos in Lake Tahoe, and I then relocated from Lake Tahoe to Midland, Texas, which was quite a change of scenery, to take up my first GM job at Midland Country Club. I'm now at my 4th club, Hillcrest in Los Angeles. We celebrated our 100th birthday last year, not in the way that we would have hoped, of course. So our 100th birthday party has been delayed. We are just over 1,000 members strong. We just remodeled our golf course, closed it for about 15 months. We've also remodeled the entire clubhouse, all bar the ladies' locker room. That was the last project, which is currently on hold. It'll be the first project we do when we take the reins off of our capital spending. I'm really excited to be with you all this morning. And I've heard a lot of talk about snow and the like, so I'm not going to show off about the weather I'm looking at out the window. Nice to be with you all.
Thank you for being kind, Miles, because we really don't want to hear about nice weather. So this session today is to talk about life after COVID, and there's been so much going on in our clubs that we have had to adapt and adjust. And so we have this wonderful panel, and you all are going to have your ideas too, but we're going to leverage the panel and ask them sort of what do we think is going to be different post-COVID? What have we learned? What's going to evolve? And where I want to start, and Miles, since I ended with you, I'll start with you. I want to talk about gratitude. We have gone through this tremendous period in time where hospitality has been just decimated, but yet clubs are really at the top of the heap. And we have, we have been open most of the time. Our club members we've been able to serve, our staff has been taken care of. We have a lot to be thankful for. So as we, how, Miles, do we say thanks, in this time as we come out of this COVID environment?
Well, as you heard from my short bio, I consider myself to be a hospitality professional. So I have friends in hotels, restaurants, casinos, the cruise industry. And as Jeff mentioned, the industry's been eviscerated. Golf has obviously been one of the great successes of the last 12 months here in the US. In the UK, they haven't been able to play. So you can add that industry to the list of casualties, as it were. There was a distinct moment during 2020 when I had to sit down and first recalibrate my gratitude. The kind of language we were hearing was, you should feel lucky. I did feel lucky to have a job. I think we all felt lucky to still have a job while we were watching our friends around us lose theirs. And in my case, I had an awful lot of uncomfortable decisions to make, notably on April the 1st, furloughing 149 team members. It really was important at that point in time to refocus on our attitude of gratitude. That is a core value at Hillcrest, gratitude. And once I had done that and really redoubled my focus on gratitude, I did the same thing with my executive team. At Hillcrest, we had an awful lot to be grateful for. I mentioned that we furloughed 148 people. We actually have a charitable fund that's separate from the club that was set up by the members to support our employees and their dependents in further education. That organization had a voluntary contribution in March, April, to help support the staff that had been furloughed to make sure that they were kept whole during the crisis. With the unemployment program that was on offer from the federal government, frankly, most of the staff were okay. However, particularly the commission-based employees, the tennis professionals, the golf professionals, the personal trainers were short. And our ability to bridge the gap for them financially was truly, truly meaningful. So now I have a team of staff that really cannot wait to get back in front of the members. We are expressing gratitude to them daily, and they are thanking us for what we've done for them. We've built their trust at a time when in society trust has been disappearing in every area of life. And we are very, very pointed in our gratitude to our members. I'd also add the association to that list of gratitude. We've managed to do some wonderful things with the association. Communication locally has been exceptional. We've had to lobby our local government. All of you know that Los Angeles has really been the eye of the storm in this COVID crisis. 18 of us got together to speak to the mayor's office, to speak to the board of supervisors, to liaise with the health department. And we're grateful for their cooperation as well, as we've managed to keep enough open to not only keep our membership full, but actually to have had the biggest year of membership sales in record.
Thanks, Miles. And certainly as we go through this, panelists, each of you don't have to respond, but I'll pick one of you to start. So one of you will be on the hot seat. I'll try to give you that warning when I ask the question. So Passion and Casey, either of you have thoughts there that you want to share?
I'll just echo everything that Miles said. I mean, if you're committed to this industry, I think you already know how lucky we all are on a day-to-day basis, but the generosity of our community and the way our members have looked to us as a safe haven, I think sort of renews a sense of purpose for our team. And when we were able to get back in the door and begin to do things outside and around our campus and see their faces again. I think it wasn't just a feeling or enough to say that we were lucky. We were really feeling that we were lucky to be back and serving them. So we are blessed to do what we do, for sure. Awesome.
Absolutely. And I will just jump in and echo the sentiments of them as well. And a lot of our members are, of course, now being vaccinated, and some of them are just now coming back inside of the clubhouses, because we still remained open for to-goes and curbside service, even during the height of it. But just truly a feeling of, we say that we're a family serving a family, and our members have just been so grateful and so expressive of the gratitude they've had for us being that safe haven, as Casey and Miles were saying, for them. And then for us, it's the same thing, that reciprocity, and them keeping us whole and keeping our teams whole. For as large as our club is, with having just under 1,000 employees, we didn't have to furlough anyone. And for that, we will forever be grateful and indebted to our membership. And just so the circle of gratitude just continues to go back and forth.
Thanks team. Okay, so let's get into some trends, and sort of is this trend gonna stay? Is it gonna get thrown out and go back to sort of pre-COVID, or is it gonna evolve? And maybe Passion, I'll start with you, since you turned away. I'll start with you, Passion. And you have this huge facility at Desert Mountain, 7 clubhouses, as you mentioned. It's this huge facility. And we often think of our club as that facility. And, has during COVID, the club turned into more than just a facility? We've done all this connection with our members electronically and via Zoom and via Flipbooks, and so is the facility of the club, is belonging to the club more than just belonging to that facility?
Absolutely. So for quite some time, we've considered the club, and we want it to be considered that third space, right? So home being the first, work being the second, the club being that third. And I think that we've actually moved up to that second place, because so many people have been working from home and of course living there in school and teaching their children at home. And so to have that respite, that getaway, and for us to be that for them has never been more prevalent than it has been now. And it has been wonderful, and to see the uptick on the club usage, especially now that they are able to start coming back inside. And just over the course of the last week, we were able to go from 50 to 75 person events. And then we're actually able to go just above 50% occupancy now. So whatever your fire code is, we can go at 60% of that. And so with that, the members are super excited, and to be able to connect with them. So we created a mobile app where it's interactive for them, doing the events virtually and being able to come into their homes, and all of those things have truly made it transcend just the walls and the brick and mortar, and truly become an essential part of their lives. And it's been beautiful to see.
Thanks, Passion.
Absolutely.
Casey or Miles, anything you want to add there?
Ladies first, Casey.
Yeah, I think it's just been an opportunity for us to create additional tethers to the club. I think for a long time we focus on butts and seats, as we call it here. How many people can we get in the door? And our focus has shifted to maintaining relevance. And that's always been sort of in the back of our mind with whatever we do in programming or dining or new programs and golf or fitness, what have you. But I think it's incredibly more important nowadays to maintain relevance, and you can do that in so many different ways. So whether it's virtual fitness classes, for if they're traveling on the road or they're at their second home in Colorado, they're still tethered back to the club by virtue of what we've been able to offer during COVID, most of which I think will stick around. So there's a lot of examples of that, but I think it's just sort of deepened the relationship and of our members with our club. Clubs are back. You know, we're the safest place to be. It's a community of known individuals. So it's been great. A lot to stay.
Yeah, I'll just add to that if people are making notes, one of the things that I would encourage them to write down is a thing called the service profit chain. It really is my Bible to hospitality and service, and the good news is it's one sheet of paper. What it starts with, the service profit chain, is internal customer service, and I tell my management team that's something we have 100% control over. I think arguably the most sustainable change that we might see come out of this, not just in the club industry, but in the workplace as a whole, is a complete shift in how people work, which is actually going to really help us with millennials and future generations. We've been forced to allow people to work from home, and in so many cases that has improved their quality of life, improved their productivity, and given us an opportunity to really take a quantum leap forward in terms of the work environment we create. I have so many employees, supervisors, and managers who have kids in LAUSD schools. Those schools haven't been in session since last March. There's no prospects of them coming back. Casey, I think, talked earlier about it was Passion, actually, forgive me, about family, work, club. Family's top of the tree for all of us. And so this has really given us an opportunity, I think, to look at the work environments we're creating for people. How can we adapt not only to this circumstance, but to the world changing around us, and really become best practices again within the hospitality industry for how we put people to work, how we measure their productivity, how we meet their needs in and out of the workplace. I think that's critical.
Thanks, Miles. Thanks, panelists. So we're going to be here for a little bit more than an hour, and I'd love to have interaction. So there's a couple ways we can do that. One is use the chat box, and don't hesitate to share your thoughts or put out questions as we're doing this. I'm not sure anybody can speak because everybody's muted, but if you have something to share and you can unmute, I didn't ask Kate if that was a possibility. Feel free to jump in as we're going through here, because if we were in person, we would make this a dialogue. So I would love to have this be a dialogue as well for everybody to jump in. So Casey, let me ask you the next question, and let's go to change.
Okay.
And, you know, change is something that clubs are traditionally very resistant to change, but yet in this environment, we've been able to make lots of changes because we've had to keep the things open and to continue to serve our members. And the members really haven't been complaining much because I think they're happy to have their club. So is this a sea change that our members are now going to leave COVID and we can make things happen a lot more quickly? Or are they going to go back to being resistant to change? Or is there a way to foster and harness this time to get our members in a mindset that we need to continue to evolve, and you know, we can do this?
Sure, I think it's going to be a little bit of both. Working at River Oaks, we're a very traditional environment. There's no Wi-Fi in the clubhouse. I don't see us setting up some coffee lounge, you know, where you bring your laptop kind of thing. I think we will maintain certain traditions of the club, which are respected and appreciated within our membership, is truly kind of their home away from home. But in terms of some things, I think back to fall of 2019, and we were making some monumental changes in our a la carte program here at the club with tons of resistance, because we were telling them what they should be eating and how they should be making reservations and, you know, that sort of thing. And fast forward 5 months from that, when we shut the club down, and all of a sudden they were looking to us for, okay, what should I eat? What do I do? What can you provide for me? So there definitely has been a shift there that I think is somewhat here to stay. I think we will return to some level of, you know, them being the member and us serving them. But at the same time, I think we've been able to do a lot of things that have shifted their perspective of how we operate the club. I joke all the time with my team that River Oaks is such a big ship to turn. You know, it takes a long time to make really transformative change. And so I tell them all the time, it only took me 3.5 years in a pandemic to get some things going around the club. So there's been a lot of positive things. I think some things will be here to stay. Definitely, as Miles said, the transformation in our work environment and how members use the club, how much more casual it is around here. I mean, I don't think a lot of our managers put on a tie until Christmas time, which is unique. And then I also think if you were to think back a year ago and say, would you ever let your catering director work from home? Or do you think your membership director could be as productive as she is in the office from home? Do you think that your club manager could stay home with her 5-year-old child and still get done what she needs to do to run a staff of 400? The answer would probably be no. So I think in a long-winded way, we've proven to ourselves that we don't always have to operate the way we've always operated, because there are different ways to do it. So 3.5 years in a pandemic later, I think we're on the forefront of some big changes.
Perfect. Thanks, Casey. Miles or Passion, anything to add there?
So I'll just kind of jump in and just add on to the change piece. And really, I feel like it has to start with our teams. And regardless of whether it's a team member or a member of the club, people in general are just resistant to change. And so I think the biggest eye opener for me is just how the team just became so resilient. And because literally changes were coming down the pipeline almost daily on an hourly basis. And when I'm able to reflect back and actually turn the mirror around and show them how they were able to pivot and turn after turn and do it without a beat, and just remind them of that and let them know, hey, we can continue to change like that, and actually get them excited about it, then they're able to infuse that excitement and enthusiasm into the members when they're out on the floor. So I think if we can, start and maintain that with our teams first, then it will make it a lot easier for any additional changes that are coming down the pipeline for our membership.
I think the most significant change that I can anticipate and that we're planning towards at the moment from a member viewpoint is that a lot of people are going to remain much more comfortable outside versus inside for an extended period of time. It's always been the case that our biggest competitive advantage is our spaces, is our acreage, is the amount of land and resources we have available to us. So we're really looking at how we can create more outdoor venues, more indoor-outdoor venues, how we can really, as people come back into the clubhouse, respect and understand the fact others are going to want to stay outside. Again, I'm going to try and lay off the weather as best I can, but obviously in LA we have a really temperate climate all year round, and with the right investment in heaters and lighting and sound, you could potentially have Christmas dinner outside. Not necessarily advocating that for Hillcrest, but I think that's going to be a big change, is that there's going to be a lot more happening outside and around the clubhouse.
So we've gotten.
I would agree.
Go ahead, Casey.
I'm sorry, I was just going to continue Miles's thought. Yeah, I think, and I know that's a question a little bit further down, how we've adapted our environments, but I would agree. I mean, we're used to having, all of us, thousands of people inside our clubhouse, and instead of waiting for the world to change around us, instead of waiting for the world to tell us what we can do, I mean, the power's in our hands to make that change, and what a great place, to be. So thank you, Passion, for bringing that up, because the change really does start with us and what we're capable of thinking and creating. And we have resources, that allow us to do those things. So I just wanted to finish that point. All great points. Good
deal. So we have a couple questions, and I'm going to throw this out as a free for all. Whoever wants to answer this can answer this, because I'm not sure which one of you is best to answer this. But one of the discussions later on in our questions, but we're going to move it up, is about our banquet space and using our banquets. And the question says, there's sort of two viewpoints. One is banquets, we're going to go back and we're going to do more banquets than ever, because we're this safe space that members want to be, that we've proven that we can really serve them. And outside events, people are going to want to bring outside events into the club because a lot of these venues have shut down. The other viewpoint is we don't really want to, we've been getting away from banquets and focusing on our members, so we really want to step away from focusing on that and doing more just for our members. So what are your thoughts there on how banquets and outside events are going to what do you think is going to happen post-COVID? And this is a free-for-all, so anybody can sort of start this.
I'd normally defer to the ladies, but I'll take a first crack at it. I mean, I think that first and foremost at Hillcrest, we only do events for our members. So that's an important distinction perhaps over some other clubs. I think what we're going to see is we're going to see opportunities and challenges, right? So the chances of having a full dance floor anytime in the next 12 months is virtually zero. We're already finding ways to do committee activities, those social activities events, because we're just taking an a la carte program and we're mapping it into a social activities committee format, letting them pick the menu, the tablecloths, the music in the background. We can't have entertainers, we can't have a dance floor, we can't do those things. So the big weddings and the big mitzvahs and the things that tend to move the needle in terms of the profitability of the department, they have to be outside. Period, the end. I don't even see the end of this year for the holiday season being able to bring much inside. You talked about, Jeff, one of the beauties of this particular event that we're all attending now is that we've got people from all over the country participating at the same time. I think there's a real opportunity for us there to lean into our members and to provide them with business services that we would have shied away from in the past, by making them comfortable in their home away from home and having a technology platform that allows them to conduct their business meetings at the club before then disappearing out for a round of golf. So we're really looking at how we can do things differently again, and being realistic about when we're going to be able to have a full dance floor.
Thanks, Miles. Kate,
For us,
yep.
We traditionally operate at about 65. If we look at our food and beverage volume, we're about 65% banquet, 35% a la carte. So definitely heavy, and that has helped us truly subsidize our dues for a long time, subsidize what members pay in dining, all of the fees associated with that. So we've definitely been a food and beverage model run club. With COVID, we've had to have some very difficult conversations about what that looks like for us, because as I mentioned, we're customarily doing 80 to 100 events a week. I think we've had maybe that many since the start of 2020. So definitely a shift in terms of our revenue model around the finance committee and board table and what that looks like for us. And whereas that's a difficult conversation to have, it also comes from a place of the members really appreciating how that has shifted their experience at the club. They no longer drive in for lunch and say there's nowhere to park because of all the events going on at the club. It's, hey, my club is back and I'm able to get a tea time, get a dining reservation, find a parking spot, all of those things. So whereas it impacts our dues line and we have to have conversations about how that changes, the member experience, I think, is higher. In terms of what events look like when they do come back, I think it goes back to being creative and embracing the change. So no, are we dining? Are we having large events? No, but could we host a business meeting and then send them away with catered packages to go? Could we, embrace catering outside of our gates? What can we do? I think that's the question. What can we do? Not necessarily what are we doing?
Yeah, and that's actually exactly what I was going to say. We have wanted to be more intentional about creating more personalized service and doing more a la carte within the event space. So we're still doing our golf tournaments, but they're tea times instead of shotgun. And so with that, as they're coming into the dining room, it's not a large influx, but a more personalized experience for each golf group. And that's really what we're trying to do, and really share with the members that it's not necessarily a bad thing, and putting that positive spin on it, and letting them know, hey, we're still going to figure this out. We're going to think outside of the box and still, create these special events for you. So like a wine dinner that would typically be 100-person event or 120 or 150 is now only 50, but what we'll do is we'll do it on multiple nights. Now that does equate to more of a labor cost. However, our members really appreciate the fact that we're still trying to bring those experiences to them as best as we possibly can.
I just want to piggyback on what Passion was saying there for a minute as well, and extend on Casey's point as well. Golf tournaments are such a great opportunity. They've shifted to tea times. You can create this really personalized experience when they come in for the dining. What we're doing is we're videoing the groups then as they come in, and we're getting banter amongst the group. How did you all play? Who carried who? And then at the end of it, we put it all together and we send it out to the participants as a video memory of the tournament. We've got great feedback on that because we're still trying to create that connectivity. What was the best shot out there? What was the worst shot out there? And having just tried to put together for the centennial last year, a history book and a video, I just know that as we morph into video, these things are going to be so entertaining to people in 50 years' time when they open the time capsule to see, and particularly the junior golf ones, right? So the Junior Golf Club Championship, when you're interviewing these kids, sending it out to their parents, and you know it goes out to every member of their extended family at that point in time. So again, I think, you know, yes, highly personalized, let's leverage technology to create community as well.
Thanks. So I have a question that really is more of an information question just to help all our audience understand each of you. So the question is, did you have a revenue hit last year, maybe by percentage, and then did you lay off people? And I know a couple of you answered that in your upfront comments, but maybe if you can just say, yes, my revenues were down 10% and we didn't lay off people. So Passion, what did you do?
So we did not have to lay anyone off. We were creative in how we utilize our team. So there was a lot of cross training. So obviously we didn't do in Clubhouse dining. So we had teammates that went and worked in golf or might have worked in agronomy or something to that extent. But we actually gained 150 new members or new member families last year. So our revenue was up, obviously, in the totality. Now in banquets, of course, that was down, but our members really supported the club in our to-go program and curbside. So in a la carte, we actually were up as well, 10% for the year. So we were very blessed. We came out on top last year.
Thanks. Casey?
Yes, no furloughed or terminated staff. Very fortunate there. We're able to keep them all employed and paid for about 9 months, which is incredible. And repurpose them. I think one of my favorite stories was our locker room attendant, our ladies locker room attendant, who's worked for the club for 38 years and raised multiple generations of members, was working in our kids camps at the end of summer and loving every minute of it, telling stories about little Johnny's dad, who she remembered sneaking lemonade and chocolate chip cookies to. So there's a ton of stories like that, but no impact on staff, significant impact on revenues. I won't share the percentage because I don't want to give away anything, but yes, significant impact on revenue.
Thank you.
Sadly, much more volatile for me at Hillcrest, perhaps in keeping with some of the people on the call. We went from just over 250, we had to furlough 148. We're now back at about 180, so you're looking at about a 28% reduction in headcount. Brutal. That's why I tell you it was the worst and toughest year of my career, was because of the human casualties along the way. I'm proud of the way we handled that. I'm proud of the bridge financing we provided to people. We kept people on our group health insurance program until this point in time. But no, massive reductions in labor, the disappearance of catering and ability to be in the clubhouse. It was impossible to keep everybody on and justify doing so for us. So that was tough. We're also fiscally very conservative. So we had an assessment during the year. We wanted to make sure that we restored and retained our cash and capital reserve accounts. So we're at a point now where we're leaner, we're well funded, we're ready to sort of plan our way out of this very strategically. We look forward to adding back, but I don't see us getting back to our prior headcount for several years, frankly, until catering is back up at full speed, because it was a big part of our boat and the only profitable segment in food and beverage. So no, there was blood on the street.
So my next, to leverage that, let's talk about stewardship of our members. I mean, clearly, Miles and Casey, your clubs took some big hits, but yet your members, did what was right to take care of the club and make sure things carried on. Did that mindset of stewardship, was that always there? Was it something new for you in your club? And, you know, is it something different coming out of COVID as far as how the members perceive their responsibility to the club?
Casey, you want to take the first crack at it, or shall I go?
I'll be very brief. Stewardship is one of the most special things about this club. They truly treat our employees like family. And they were the first to mention anything about, actually, they fought back when management brought up a list of employees that could potentially be furloughed or temporarily furloughed. The board and the membership fought back and fought hard to make sure that the employee community remained intact and here to serve them when and if our world comes back to normal. So we're blessed.
Yeah, I think what I would say is that stewardship can be a double-edged sword. I've just been interviewing a key management position, and one of the questions is, you know, our members and staff enjoy truly unique relationships. At times when staff feel that they're underperforming and coming under the scrutiny of management, they may go and engage those members to try and garner support, and in turn those members can make your life a living misery. How would you deal with that situation? So if you're ever going to be interviewed by me, record that. That's going to be a question. I think what COVID did is it gave us a chance to insert management in the middle of that, to have organized systems, effective communication that didn't just influence the handful of team members that they know and care about. It became club-wide. It became a community. It became about, you know, you put the money in, you trust us to use it the right way. We all share the same values. We're looking for the same outcomes. We want to make sure these staff that are furloughed are not economically harmed. We will manage that process. We will make sure that your contributions are honored and that they're managed the right way. We'll communicate with you, we'll communicate with the staff. So instead of it being ad hoc and very individually based, it became much more of a cultural phenomenon.
And I'll just also add in, so just before COVID hit, our membership had voted to pass phase one of a 10-year strategic plan that we have, $18 million renovation of our oldest clubhouse, our first clubhouse, Renegade. And as soon as COVID hit, the members were the first to step up, reach out to the board and say, we have that $18 million in cash for this renovation. Let's hold on to it, hold off on that rebuild and use it to keep the staff. And so we had that there in reserve for us, and for the members to step up in that way, I think was phenomenal. And thankfully at the end of the year, we didn't have to tap into that and actually ended up with now 25 million that we have in reserve to put towards that and to be able to speed up additional strategic plans that we have.
Thanks, Passion.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'll let one of you decide who's going to start this, but I'm going to take this same vein of thought and go into staffing. You know, we started this with a lot of gratitude and what we have to be thankful for, and we've just talked about how our members have taken care of the club. One of the things is our staff. We really have a great story to tell about the club environment and staffing in the club environment. So have we changed how we go out and hire people into our club, or is there something that we should change going out as we leave COVID, you know, and how we hire folks outside of the club into the club environment? Because we really are the best in hospitality as far as coming through COVID. So how do we leverage that to make sure we get the best staff possible?
Well, I don't think we are really doing anything too different. So our model is, you know, we always hire for personality. You hire for those things that you can't train and teach people, right? So having that spirit to serve and kindness and generosity and compassion and those things, because you can train the other skills. I think where we have a unique opportunity is the fact that now other sectors of hospitality that are transitioning into clubs because they see the security that's within clubs are now taking on more of our approach and what we have been doing. In our HR department, we now have 3 new teammates that come from Marriott, and with them and them understanding and realizing that you can't just look at someone's resume and say, yeah, they're going to be great, and they're not going to be. It's just a kind of shift for their mindset more so than us, because I feel like, hey, we already had it right.
Good for you.
I think, again, running lean and mean at the moment and having really reduced headcount, the first thing that's happened is internally, the candidates that remain, the amount of cross-training that's happened has been nothing short of inspirational. And there's an inherent seasonality to all of our businesses when they fire at different times. We've really looked at this as an opportunity to broaden the current employees' skill sets, offer them opportunities to learn in new departments. In doing that, we make them more employable for the future. We become a better employer. And as we bring people back, we know that we're going to have a lot of choice out there. We're going to have the pick of the litter, as it were, as we do open up opportunities for people. But first for me, the big takeaway from this is the need to be flexible, to be able to cross-train individuals. And that way, when you're interviewing a candidate, you can ask them, how are you going to feel if I present you with the opportunity to go and edge sprinkler heads on the golf course at 6 o'clock in the morning? Is that going to be something that you're going to enjoy having the opportunity to do? That gives me a great insight to that person's work ethic. And when it's something we then follow through on, we found some people actually like getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning and missing LA traffic. So I think it starts with who's already on the bus and making sure that you're maximizing their potential and finding the efficiencies you can within the club that are inherent.
Thank you.
Yeah. Excellent points. We're doing a lot of that too, repurposing folks as we can. But one thing I think is going to be important as we come back online is, yes, we'll have our pick of the litter. I appreciate you saying that. I think we have, probably a larger market for employees than we've ever had before. But that's also going to make, in some ways, hiring even more difficult, because we will have to be that much more competitive. Competitive in what we pay them, competitive in the benefits we offer, competitive in the security that we offer them, making sure that, as Passion said, we are truly a great environment for them to come to work. And so potentially we have a leg up there, but I think in looking at just nationally, minimum wage going up in different areas, we've been able to get away from paying those wages, and we're definitely doing some internal studies on in what we pay for certain positions to make sure that we are getting the best of the best in a saturated market. So,
thanks. Casey, let me stick with you, because you mentioned about working from home, and work-life balance is something that's, has come into focus. It's been something that's been talked about for years. It is, when we go out to you all and ask you what are your biggest issues, work-life balance always comes in the top 5, if not the top 3 of challenges. Has this pandemic changed the perception of work-life balance and how we as clubs are going to deal with work-life balance of our employees going forward, as well as the management staff?
I definitely think so. As I mentioned earlier, I think if you would have asked us all a year ago what key department head or what key line level positions could work from home, or even a portion of their work from home, and the answer would be nothing. What do you mean? We have to work 60 hours. We're in the people business. We need FaceTime, all of those things. And I think this has forced us all to take a step back and prioritize our intentions, prioritize our time. I've always had to be a little more efficient than others, I feel like, with my time, but I think that this has made that even more so. And it's brought a lot of silver linings into some of our management teams. I'm sure you all have them in your clubs that overwork themselves, and this has sort of forced them to stay home and reprioritize. And so I do think that everyone is more focused on a work-life balance, for the good or the bad. And I hope that that's here to stay. One of my favorite parts in the beginning of COVID was seeing everyone outside and enjoying the city. It was about all you could do, and so folks were out riding their bikes and enjoying the parks and, doing things as family units. And in all the dark times that we experienced in the last year, I think that was one of the greatest silver linings. And so I truly hope that we've learned a little bit, and I hope that sticks around.
Awesome.
Yeah, I would just go to my personal experience, I guess. And I'm, as Casey was talking, I was thinking about my dear friend Greg Patterson, who I disagree with on most everything in life. One of the things Greg used to say is members at the club, paperwork at home, or people at the club, paperwork at home. I pointed out to Greg, you don't have children, so good luck with your paperwork at home when you've got 4 kids running all over your house. However, there is some wisdom in what he said, and I think so. I'm still working from home on Fridays. It's something which I'm wrangling with at the moment because all of my institutional memory wants to drag me back into the club to walk around the lunchroom and see the golfers in the afternoon. But I need to lead by example in this environment as well. And I really do think there's some inherent value to me working from home on a Friday. Apart from the fact I can make sure my kids are all plugged into their devices and doing their 900 hours of Zoom calls and finishing their school week correctly. It's when the business week ends. If I can push my admin off a little bit until Friday, it really allows me to double down in the operation in front of the staff and the members Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Friday, I can get myself really tidied up. And I've looked at the data. I mean, I am so productive on a Friday because I get up early, I hit the computer immediately. The volume of emails is terrifying that I'm sending. I'm on conference calls all day long. I am so much more productive than I would be in my office. And it allows me to get back in the club on Saturday and really, again, be member facing. So I think I kind of hope that's going to be a takeaway. That's going to be a conversation with my board. That's going to go along with some serious data presentation as well. Because again, that culture of the manager being omnipresent is something that I think we all rail with. So yeah, I'm in that snowstorm at the moment and happy to report back in another 6 months.
Thanks, Miles.
Yeah, and I would just echo the same sentiments. And like Miles, more so from a personal standpoint, I was definitely of the mindset that I needed to be here 5, 6, 7 days a week from open to close. And what it forced us all to do was to really reset, take a step back and not only realize what was most important, because our teams were affected, by COVID, either, having team members who actually got it or family members of team members, and seeing what you were able to accomplish with less people actually being here and not having every single manager be here. And we were able to do it and accomplish it. And so, being able to continue that, I think would be super beneficial for all of us in the way of balance.
Thank you. I'll let you self-select on this one too. Let's talk technology. What have you done technology-wise during COVID in your club, and apps or updates to the website, changes in back office? What's going to stick? What's going to not stick? Where are you going to leverage it even more going forward?
I can start with this one. So we did institute an app that members were able to just download on their phone, and they can literally, from making their tee times to making a reservation to signing up for an event, we're able to do that, and super user friendly. Also, just in the communication. So Mr. Diorio was very intentional. Weekly, he was doing recordings and on YouTube that were going out to our membership, just giving them an update on all things as it related to the club, whether it was the health of the club financially, the health of the members, as well as team members as well. And the members truly appreciated that transparency, because a lot of times fear is based on the unknown. And so the fact that it was almost oversharing gave them respite and gave them a greater sense of peace. We also do what we call the Mountain Minute, and that goes out twice a week. So on Tuesdays, as well as Thursdays, they're getting basically like a digital newsletter, if you will. And on Tuesdays, it's more business, whereas on Thursdays, it's more social and fun events of that nature. And then on Fridays, we do what we call the Friday Jam. So it's normally set to music, and there's just different themes of it every single week. And it's just a minute, maybe a minute and a half, but it's something now that the members truly are looking forward to. And so those are things that we did to kind of keep them engaged and make sure that we stayed relevant. And, as Casey was saying, that they stayed tethered to the club, because we had a lot of members that are international that couldn't come back, but they still, you know, had that ability to feel like they were engaged and a part of it. And those are things that will not go away. We've done wine dinners as well as virtual cooking classes, wherein we would get all of the ingredients and everything together for the cooking class and actually have our catering department to deliver it to the members' homes. And then they would get online with the chef and actually cook inside their home. And so just, again, with that thinking outside of the box and truly using technology, to Miles' point earlier, to keep our members involved and engaged. And it's been wonderful. It's been wonderful.
So your vote is all that's going to just continue to build going forward?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Okay.
I think the only thing I would add to that probably is, first of all, IT is like not my wheelhouse, but the language that I've been hearing out of my IT department, the things where we've made considerable investments in the past into our communication technologies, apps and the like, reservation systems, network security, really the last 12 months, as you're setting up these remote offices and you're allowing people access to the network remotely, it creates all kinds of security risks. So completing comprehensive penetration tests, really understanding the stability and the protection of your network. We all hold some fairly sensitive information. That's really where we've had to double down.
Casey, anything to add since you're not a Wi-Fi club? But
I know, the club without Wi-Fi, that's us. We launched Instagram at the beginning of the, no, I'm sorry. We launched our app at the beginning of 2020. So timing was perfect there. We've been doing some pretty good email communication since my time here. So we already did a twice weekly e-newsletter that is definitely here to stay. We did suspend our printed newsletter for the last 3 quarters of 2020 and just brought it back at the end of the year, last year actually, so January, February edition. And we used to print 12 of them a year, now we're printing 6. And so where we've advanced in technology, we've also taken that opportunity kind of on the communications front to revamp how we treat our newsletter, and it's become much more of a lifestyle issue. So tons of photos and employee spotlights and really kind of embracing that sense of community since we're not doing as many events and, you know, don't have quite as much to promote. And then we saw the opportunity to launch Instagram in the spring months, and that was awesome. And that has been just another, I've used this word a lot today, but tether to our community. And we don't use it as much for promoting events as we do for posting recaps and announcing who won the golf tournament and posting cute pictures of kids out at the drive-in movie. And it's really sort of fostered another sense of community for us. So, and then internally, definitely ramping up our ability to host meetings, both virtually and in person, whether it's a committee meeting where we've invested in new conference phones. And then we've taken a lot of our wine events, which is probably my favorite thing that's come out of it. We've taken a lot of our wine events hybrid. So not only are we doing them in the club with a limited amount of people, but also kind of, as Passion mentioned, preparing kits or preparing meals to go so that you can participate either at home or in person. So we're not necessarily limiting ourselves for what we're able to do here at the club, but sort of extending that reach. So yeah, for the club without Wi-Fi, we've definitely had a year in technological advancement, which has been awesome.
thanks, Casey. And tethered is a great word, so keep using it. So Passion, I'm going to start with you because you're a member of the Diversity and Equity and Leadership Task Force at CMAA. And one of the things that has happened during COVID is social justice has come much more in focus. It's always been there, but it really is something that you know, is critical in so many ways. And I guess I want to start with you and then move to our other panelists. What is our role in our clubs and as club professionals in this realm of social justice and diversity and all of that?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So I think our biggest role is to not turn a blind eye, to truly be active listeners and observers of what's going on in the world around us. And we always say that, you know, we want to be relevant. And I think the biggest thing that we can do is to take on the fact that diversity is something that is important, and not just from a social aspect, but also from a business standpoint. So, you know, the fact that we are in the people business makes it the right thing for us to do. And from a business standpoint, diversity, it brings more voices to the conversation, and it makes you more marketable, you know, and so diversity is truly important. And I think CMAA has done, and you as well, Mr. Morgan, have done an amazing job with saying, hey, we're going to put together this task force because this is something that is important, and making sure that we are more reflective of the communities in which we serve, with a little over 70% of all of our entry-level staff being women and people of color, but then only, you know, 1% of the leadership staff being women, and less than 1% of 1% being people of color in leadership. That's a huge disparity, and it's something that we are not shying away from. And I think the biggest part with that we have made strides in doing already is saying exposure, and with that, whether it's showcasing James Moody in the CMAA magazine, and making endeavors to ensure that we're going to continue to do that, because the mirroring effect says that I believe that I can be what I see. And so if you see different individuals in positions, then you know that it's possible for you to also aspire for that. And so I am super proud of the work that CMAA and that we as a task force are doing. And I'm very hopeful, and I don't think I've ever been this hopeful before for what's on the horizon and what's to come.
Thanks, Passion. I'm going to flip it over to Miles, but I want to share two anecdotes because I think they sort of play into this. One is in conversations with some of the executive recruiting firms in our space, they are being asked as they present candidates that pool of candidates must be diverse. Because I think if you look at the research in business, diversity breeds excellence. If you have diverse thought, diversity and diversity comes in lots of different ways. It's not just people of color or women, it's economics and other things. It breeds a better organization. So search firms are starting to ask for diversity. The other thing that I just had a conversation today with a member who said that as new members are coming into the club, they are asking about the diversity of the membership. They said, well, we can see diversity among your staff, but how diverse is the membership? So it becomes a selling point or a non-selling point in our clubs going forward, that while the membership of our clubs are determined by our members, this is an issue that is continually coming into focus. Miles, I know in your club, social justice and what you've done over the past year has been incredible. Do you want to share that story?
Sure, I'm happy to. I mean, I think the biggest roles we play are A, facilitating the conversation, and B, leading the change that we want to see. So in terms of facilitating the conversation, after the George Floyd murder, we hosted a town hall meeting outside on our event lawn with 100% of the staff attending. At the town hall meeting, we had African-American members of staff and African-American members of the club come and share some of their firsthand experiences with racism with the group. At the end of their stories, I asked the staff how they felt, and to a man and woman, they felt angry. I don't have time to share the stories with you, but they would make you angry too. So following that, we did two things. One, we started a new hiring program. We started a fair hiring program, which actually allows convicted felons to come and start to rehabilitate and re-enter the workforce and society at Hillcrest. It has not been, we are not batting 1,000. Lots of challenges that go along with making that kind of an effort. What motivated me to want to do that and to take it to the next level was better understanding the plea bargain scam that exists in this country and why so many innocent people are incarcerated. And having a very strong belief that it shouldn't be a penal system, it should be rehabilitative. So I'm very proud of the fact we've done that. We're having teething problems. It's challenging. You have setbacks along the way, but we have a commitment to do this, and we know it's going to be a tough road, so we're doing it. Equally as meaningful, at the end of their presentations, I asked the audience if they'd like to take a crack at describing the gentleman in both cases who had just shared stories with us. And listening to people dance around whether or not they could use the word black was really enlightening, really, really enlightening, because so many of us have got good intentions. I think our biggest fear is language. I think we don't want to offend people. I think we don't know what to say and how to say it. And as I said to the group, it's all about emphasis. If you were to describe me as a bald man, I would probably take offense to that. If you were to say that I was 6'3", wearing a handsome shirt and tie with facial scruff, bald head, then that's fine. It's part of the mix. If I was a man of color and you were to describe me as 6'3" with scruff around my face, wearing a pink shirt, and I was African American or black, that would also be fine. But if you define me as being black or you define me as being bald, then you're going to create offense. But people have good intentions here. They just need a map, and it's going to be clumsy. So what we did, we took that, and every single all-staff departmental meeting, they have to do that. They'll, in advance, the department head will ask one of their team members, whether they're from Sri Lanka, whether they're from Guatemala, whether they're from, because obviously Latinos, you've got lots of Latinos, and often they are all accused of being Mexican, which is just, it's deeply offensive. So we took it upon ourselves at these departmental meetings to have team members describe men and women in their department who didn't look like them. And it's been clumsy, but it's been rewarding. And I really feel like we're trying to create some positive change, and it's making a difference. I think you hit the nail on the head though. In terms of diversity, it's not, obviously I can control that. I really can control the staff side of it at my club. It's also about the membership. How diverse is your membership? Recognizing that we all discriminate. Clubs by nature discriminate. You have to be able to write a really big check to join our clubs. So we discriminate on an economic basis, but we do not discriminate on any other basis whatsoever. And our goal is to become what our board call a Big Tent. Historically, we were a Jewish club. Now we're a club that's about having a charitable heart. If you have a charitable heart, it doesn't matter whether you worship or where you worship. It doesn't matter how you're plumbed. It doesn't matter what the color of your skin is. It doesn't matter who you choose to sleep next to at night. It's about having a charitable heart, and that makes me very proud of my club.
Thanks, Miles. Casey, anything to add, or I'll go into diversity in another way?
I mean, who could match those two? Wow, incredible. The only thing I'll say is I think, you know, in the next piece of it, which you're probably going to touch on, Jeff, is the inclusion part. And it's one thing to be diverse and one thing to keep diversity at the forefront of your mind. It's another thing to include those people. So making a conscious effort within your teams, sort of as Miles and Passion both said, to have task force that represent different demographics within your club, to make sure that you're keeping their experience and their lifestyle and the things that they deal with out of the four walls of your club in mind when you're making decisions about your workforce in general. We don't have quite as much wiggle room with our membership process, but we can control what we can control, and that's how we treat our employees, which are our #1 asset. Yeah,
thank you. And CMA, Passion, you were kind on the remarks on this task force at National. We have a long journey to go with CMA, but we've started, and I'm very proud of the fact that we've started that journey. From an inclusion standpoint, Miles, why don't you talk a little bit about how you're going out and being inclusive as far as hiring some ex-cons as staff members?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you have to be honest and be realistic and recognize that when these people come into the workforce, they aren't really ready for it. You have to have a lot more patience. You have to have a lot more training. You have to have a group of people that understand that these people are coming in with less skills than we would normally bring in. We're bringing them into entry-level positions. We used to say no violent crime. There were certain crimes that we wouldn't touch. We look at every candidate. We have to look at every candidate, and I have to meet every candidate and talk to them before they're actually brought on board. But really, it's about awareness on the team standpoint that this person's going to be a slightly slower student. They're going to take a little bit longer to get up to speed. They're frequently going to have more challenges getting to work than you are. They're frequently going to be taking more buses to get here than you are. they're frequently going to have things that you're going to need to offer love and support. And we need to remember our core values. Our core values at Hillcrest, 3 are very boring: professionalism, integrity, and teamwork, yawn. The other 2 are very unique to us. I think gratitude, which we started this with, and the second one is kindness. And kindness is a core value of mine. It's a core value of my clubs. And it's a core value of my teams. So be kind. Understand that these people are coming in with much more meaningful challenges than you hope to ever address in your life. They may never have had anything stable and consistent in their life. They have doubt. They struggle to trust. They do not trust that the words that come out of our mouth are going to be matched by the actions that they experience at the club. And stay strong, be patient, recognize that at times you're going to have to sit down with those self-same people and say, I'm sorry, it hasn't worked out. It would not be fair to my organization to continue this journey at this point in time. I'm happy to help you personally transition to another opportunity, but we're done here. So that's always the toughest part of our job, is when something hasn't worked. But just because it doesn't work in one instance doesn't mean the program isn't right. Doesn't mean the vision isn't right. It doesn't mean the philosophy isn't right. It just means that one instance didn't work out.
Thanks. So Passion, I mean, in the NFL, there's the Rooney Rule, you know, where you have to interview a minority as part of the, you know, when you make a coaching change. You know, what do we need to do in clubs to be more intentional? Because this is a journey that is going to take decades to impact, and it starts with, as we hire, you know, folks that are more junior in their career. You know, what do you think we should be doing to make sure that we are on the right path from a hiring standpoint?
So I think, I mean, obviously you can't go out with a banner saying, Black people, women, disabled people, come apply here. But one thing, I think it goes back to that exposure piece. So as we are going out to job fairs or going out to the colleges and speaking about this wonderful career in clubs, being intentional about the teammates that you're taking with you. So I think that it would be great to bring a line level teammate in that can actually speak to real life experience and what it is to work at the club, or being intentional about bringing a diverse set of individuals whenever you're going out to promote your business, and ensuring that everyone doesn't look the same, because that's not a true representation of either the staff that you have or the team that you want to build. So I think just having that intentionality is key.
Thank you. So I'm going to talk about diversity in an entirely different way, and let's look at our members. We live in a environment right now with politics to where if you disagree with somebody, my view is right and their view is wrong. Or if you wear a mask, either you wear a mask or you don't wear a mask. Well, the one thing we don't do in our clubs when we bring in members is sort of understand where they fall, and we have lots of diversity among our membership as far as who wears masks, who doesn't want to wear a mask, what their politics are, you know, on and on and on. How do we, you know, with our members in this charged environment that we're living in right now, how do we make sure our members all play well with each other and live within the club community with each other in the best way possible, despite their diverse views? Is that our role as club professionals? Is it the board role? Is it a culture role? How do we deal with that?
I think it's a leadership role, Jeff, and I'm going to avoid making any derogatory comments about leadership in the political landscape over the recent past. But
smart move.
I might be tempted though. But really it does. It comes from having core values that are well understood by everyone, an organized chain of command, leadership at the top of it that is not trying to turn anything into a police state, but is simply going to take everyone's welfare as their number one priority. It's being clear in your communication. It's being clear in enforcing your standards. It's about giving staff the support they need to enforce those rules. And it's about being very clear with members that none of us want anything more than for you to be able to just walk into the dining room, sit down, interact with your favorite server, pop off to the driving range, go over to the bar. It's just not working like that right now. It's working in a very different way. It's a very difficult environment for staff to function in. And by the way, those staff map those same concerns. So some of them are very concerned about their interactions with you, and nothing is more important to us than the well-being of our staff and the well-being of our members. I think when you're consistent, you're not going to change people's outlooks. And the big challenge is this polarization that's taken place in this country in the last 20 years, more maybe quarter century. One side's got more out there, the other side's got more out there. We just got to be consistent in terms of what we're saying, what we're doing, and being very clear on what those values are that are driving us.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Anything else?
I think Miles hit it on the head, that clarity and then that consistency piece that he talked about at the end. You have to be consistent. You can't treat one or because you know this member might not respond as well, not say anything to them, but just, yeah, that consistency and clarity.
Don't hate the player, hate the game and all that.
There you go.
Okay, so let's move out of all this and get into maybe something that's a little bit easier to talk about. Food and beverage. How has your food and beverage changed over COVID, and what's going to stay and what's going to evolve, and what do you think? Maybe this isn't easier.
Well, I think the biggest change that we have seen is just the huge uptick in to-go business and curbside service, and still, you know, making sure. So now our host stand is actually, we set it up outside so that you can see the members as they're pulling up. We ask for what color and model of vehicle they're pulling up in, so that, again, for those who aren't coming in, they're still getting that personalized service and that name recognition whenever they pull up to the circle and grab their food. So that's really been the biggest that we've seen, and a lot of the gratis items. So whereas before we would have a big popcorn machine and you could just scoop your popcorn, we're now having to bag that and the nuts and different things, and the breakfast bread individually. But other than that, those have been the biggest changes for us.
Thanks.
Oh, and buffet. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I agree. I think to-go business is one thing, and that is here to stay. And now that we've proven to ourselves that we can do it and do it well, hopefully that'll stick around. And not just in, you know, the one-off orders through a la carte, but also how we package, you know, family meals or what promotions we're doing for dining. Outdoor dining, I think we've talked about that a little bit earlier on the call. Definitely here to stay. We have expanded every outdoor space that we can. And not just for dining, but using the rest of the campus for different club events. You know, we do one Friday a month, we do a sip and stroll where they come get a drink, stroll on the golf course for an hour with their family. We do a little treasure hunt in one of the bunkers on the golf course. And so, you know, we're getting out and allowing members to see and experience much more of their campus than they might have otherwise. So, and that translates back to, obviously, like I said, butts and seats in the dining room. And then I think being smarter about our technology, use of technology, food ordering, mobile ordering through the app, all of those things definitely here to stay. And yeah, it's all good stuff.
I agree with everything the ladies have said, and I think there's something, Jeff, that the association needs to lead for us as well as an industry we need to do. We need to sort of organize and mobilize around this issue right now, because unrelated business income includes to-go food, right? Which is asinine. It's asinine. We're in the business of serving our members. We need to be able to provide them with the products and services they need, not just during a pandemic, but in everyday life. If I have members that in 4 or 5 years are still a little apprehensive about being in a crowded dining room, there should be nothing to stop me from catering to them in their home. There should be I am providing services to a member. It's as simple as that. And the fact that to-go food is considered unrelated business income has always jarred with me a little bit. And I think that this is a really seminal opportunity for us to challenge that a little bit. I think we need to understand that we are truly in the business of meeting our members' needs wherever that might be. So a small one for us being the COVID capital of the planet. Like we're starting travel clubs because pretty soon Ventura are going to allow people into the movie theater. LA County's not going to do it for months. So we're going to have coaches of kids, like socially distanced and everything else. We're going to take them safely. We're going to take them into the neighboring county to go and watch a movie. So I think that programming, obviously being as creative as you can be, but there's a real opportunity for us here, I think, to push back on that to-go food being considered unrelated.
I would agree.
Yeah, I will just add on that. That is an IRS regulation. So in order for it to be changed, it needs an act of Congress, literally. So it's not something that the IRS can just change on their own. So that's a pretty big hill to climb. So I see a question here about, has anyone changed their breakfast buffets to grab and go? Any thoughts there? I think, Passion, you mentioned that you're doing that,
Yes.
correct?
Absolutely. So we've definitely downsized everything that we were doing, and everything, including the fruit, is all individually wrapped so that members can just grab and go with that.
Yeah. Good.
I'm so thankful to be rid of buffets. I'm so grateful to be rid of, but what a waste, what a stale way to operate. I get that they can be efficient, but my goodness, our service and the quality of product we've been able to do, I hope they never come back. Buffets can go away.
I'll take the other side of that. Not that I love buffets, I would much rather. Buffets are a huge, huge part of our history at Hillcrest. Our busiest dinner service is al fresco on Sundays. We could not knock that number of covers out of our kitchen. We do like 250 to 300 every Sunday in an al fresco environment off the grills. Our grill room inside is the most iconic part of the building. It has a mixed 50-50 mix of buffet and a la carte. And our buffets, before we had to shut them down completely and when they reopen, will be what I call a 3-ring circus, which is to say the chef stands over there and cooks. The member stands 6 feet the other side of me over there. I take the member's order. He tells me what I want. I get it from the chef. I'm in all my PPE. There can be no interaction between the member and the cook. The member can't help himself to the food, but I can have someone on that buffet setting things up as long as their distance is separated properly and passing it on. It's a living nightmare. However, it is a significant part of the history of the club. It's something I know people look forward to getting back to. You don't want to hear about the proteins that come off of our carvery because no one since your grandma ever ate them and wanted them, but I'm still serving your grandma. So that's how we do it, the 3-ring circus.
Yeah, I think like most of this, it's a hybrid. They're not going to be gone forever, but you're thinking of more creative ways to offer the same thing, just maybe in a different way or on a different level. So I appreciate your stance, Miles.
But you're still hoping, Casey.
Yes.
Let's move to financial management. This has been, managing the finances of the club have been a very active process through COVID because everything is not going according to budget. And so it's more of an art, I think, and my question is, what's changed in sort of how your staff gets involved or your board gets involved in the financial management of the club? And, are there lessons there that you've learned through COVID that you're going to want to keep getting when we come out of COVID?
I think for us, it started with figuring out what our burn rate was initially. That was something that was obviously management driven, communicating that to the board. And then, frankly, if I'm going to be completely honest, the president and I said, don't let a good crisis go to waste. Never let a crisis go to waste, right? So this gave us a chance to really lean into people's concerns and their better selves in terms of their desire to do more for the staff. All 3 of us on the panel are very fortunate to work at the clubs we do, where we have the resources we have at our disposal. I'm still friends with a lot of people at clubs that do not have these same resources that I do. The notion of retaining all of their staff is just almost laughable because they were seeing members disappear off of their roles and rosters. The need to manage cash in those clubs has always been prevalent. I think that this teaches us all that the need to build and establish cash and capital reserves is absolutely critical. The other thing I would say is you quite often feel, I'm going to try and find a polite way of saying it, that your efforts to communicate the need for expense management to staff are proving futile. There's a different way, a more colorful way of saying that. I'm glad I avoided it. In this environment, again, that gratitude the staff had, when we explained to them that everyone is battening down the hatches, everyone is worried about what the future holds. We have to really manage these expenses tightly. That is what we owe to the members. Mm-hmm. It resonated in a different way. So I think that's something which as managers, we have to continue to recognize when the staff have done it and when the managers have done it and reward them for doing it with praise and everything else, because that's something where we can get very lackadaisical, I find.
Yeah, just to add on what Miles was saying, absolutely. So everyone had to, even us, you know, to the point I made earlier, we went into the year knowing that we had $18 million in capital to put towards the renovation of our new clubhouse, but we didn't want to have to tap into that if we didn't have to. And so we I always say hustle like you're broke, and that's exactly what we did. Tightened up the you know, the belt strings, and literally we managed our expenses in a way that we had never done so before. And so now our purchasing department was able to step up, and, you know, looking back on it, it was like, why didn't we ever do that before? But every clubhouse kind of operated almost on an island. And now our purchasing department is, we all communicate through them so that we have more purchasing power. And we were able to save a tremendous amount of money, and a lot of it just on shipping costs, because, all right, if you need this and the other clubhouse needs this, well, guess what? We'll all order it all at once. And so it's a lot of little things like that. And then also seeing new revenue streams from, whether it's our food truck, because it could be parked outside and members weren't having to come inside, and utilizing that a little bit more, even taking it to members' homes and doing events out in front of their homes. So just creative thinking outside of the box, and again, that being those good stewards over the resources that our members provided us.
Thanks. Question, we got about 15 minutes left, so a couple more questions. And this was touched on, but I think it bears, it's good to sort of make sure we all agree there. The importance of outdoors seems to have grown during COVID. Do we think that's going to continue post-COVID, that the use of outdoors more and more and more? I see nods. Yes. You guys are getting.
I think absolutely, absolutely, and why shouldn't it? So here at our clubhouse, we're actually in a position now where we're at 3 times the capacity that we were prior to COVID, simply because of utilization of outdoor spaces and being more creative. We took our lawn here and turned it into AstroTurf so that we weren't tearing it up when we put tables out there. And we talked earlier about, you know, the addition of bocce. We also have a breezeway space that we've turned into dining space as well. And it's actually become the most popular spot in the restaurant, and members absolutely love it. And it's working for us. So I mean, fiscally, I think it would be irresponsible to go back at this point.
Yeah. Thanks, Passion. Passion, there's a question here specifically for you. Do you use a specific purchasing program for integration in your club? What?
The program would be Andy Nelson, our purchasing director. So
okay.
He's one of the most tenured employees. He was one of the first employees of Desert Mountain, and he was actually the original chef here, so he knows the club as well as the vendors inside and out. And he's magic. He's magic when it comes to purchasing and really building relationships. And yeah, so no, there's not a specific program or anything like that. It's just the man.
We all can't hire Andy, so that's okay.
Right.
So let's switch to question on, you know, our members have all been working from home more because of COVID. And Miles, I think you said you're looking at creating some space where they can come in and work in the club. At least I think you said that. You know, what do we see as this work from home? How does that impact you at the club going forward?
I think those of us that have been working from home with kids would tell you that it's challenging. I think the biggest opportunity is to look at the overall family environment and take care of the different needs of the different members of the family, which is to say that if you're coming in and having a work morning at the club in one of the workspaces, we really need to have activities to keep your kids happy as well and entertained, particularly at the moment while the kids aren't back in school here in LA. So it's about having a total approach to the entire family. As something so that when you're taking that opportunity for someone to come in and get a change of scene, come into the club, find a quiet corner, get their work done, benefit from the Wi-Fi network, sorry, Casey, benefit from the high-speed downloads and uploads and all of the stuff that we've got from an infrastructure standpoint, that you know that while that's happening, your kids are being entertained, and either they're in a study program at the club, or they're, frankly, what everyone's much more interested in is getting them out, getting them fresh air, and getting them engaging with other people safely.
Yeah, great points. We've been impacted in a little bit of a different way from the work from home standpoint. We are up 40% in tee times and golf rounds at the club. And that's because you can take a Zoom call or a conference call as you sit out in between holes or what have you. So it's not a negative thing, but we've had to address compaction because so many folks are working from home and looking to spend more time on the golf course, or tennis courts are full, junior programming is full, to your point, Miles, about desperately looking for some way to occupy your children. So whereas we won't necessarily be building any technology savvy conference rooms here at the club, we are having to adjust things outside of the club to accommodate different life schedules.
And I'll just add on briefly the same thing. So we've seen a huge uptick in our junior programming, and it has been absolutely monumental for the parents, whether it's tutoring or our junior golf program or tennis program, because it then gives the parents time to come to the club and actually work in a quiet space away from their children.
Thank you. Two more questions. So second to last question is, our members see our clubs as safe havens, and that has certainly been amped up during COVID, because that's why everybody's coming to the club, because they feel safer in the club. It's probably not something we sell to potential members as far as that safety or that safe haven. Do you think coming out of COVID, we have a responsibility to push that a little bit more with potential members, or, you know, once the world opens back up, is everybody going to still come to the club? Have we trained them to come to the club, or are they going to go back to all the other places they would go? How's that for a question? Was there a question in there?
We can engineer one out of it, or at least I can find a response. I think that what I've always said to the board since I started at Hillcrest is two commodities that we trade on: privacy and security, more than anything else, with the 0.1% that we cater to. I think security has taken on a different context. It's not just about keeping the perimeter secured. It's about keeping you and your family safe and secure when you're at the club. And I think that potentially becomes a value that we can share with both prospective members and current members, which we've never done previously, is that we take your security here to be an absolute priority for us. And by that, we don't just mean having the guard at the gate. We don't just mean having the cameras. We don't just mean data security. We mean that when you and your family are moving around the club, you can do so in a safe and secure fashion. And that was best highlighted during the pandemic. But those are standards of execution in food and beverage, that desire to be of service to you on the golf course, that doesn't change. We don't need a pandemic to be doing the right thing. It just gave us a chance to showcase that we were so far ahead of the rest of the industry in terms of those practices, that it was an easy transition for us to make in many ways.
Well said.
Yeah, I completely concur. With us, we are far northeast Scottsdale, and that used to be a negative, quite honestly, when it came to selling memberships. But now the fact that we are kind of on an island up here on the mountain to ourselves, it has been one of the biggest selling points. And so that whole shift has proved to be very beneficial for us and a tremendous selling point. So it's worked in our favor for sure.
Okay, so I lied. We just got a question from the audience, so that I'm going to ask two more questions. That's what I said the last time. So, are you requiring your staff to become vaccinated? If so, why or why not?
No, we're not. We are strongly encouraging. Again, this just hits that sweet spot, right, between not wanting to be a police state and also wanting to be responsible and really try and encourage things. I don't want to get into too much of the legalities of that, but working in the People's Republic of California, we have a fairly overbearing HR landscape to operate within. And So that has actually benefited from some legal input and legal counsel. We won't be requiring it, we'll be strongly encouraging it. And certainly in my case, I'll be leading by example.
Yeah, same. I said no plans to require it. We will encourage it. And then in the meantime, continue to uphold the standards that we put in place for safety and well-being as we should be from the start.
Absolutely the same. We are not demanding that anyone do it. We do have an on-site health clinic here that is available for free to our employees, and that's with any type of illness or sickness, but it proved to be extremely beneficial during COVID with individuals being able to go down there and, you know, get the test and the results immediately. And so that will continue to be a backbone of our operation here.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that question being asked because I think that is something we're all grappling with. Or have decided, and you know, it's an interesting question. So I want to end with a leadership question, and you can decide who would like to go first. But words like patient, empathy, culture, training, communication, stress, focus, motivation, safety, transformation, innovation were all necessary during COVID. So have you as a leader changed during this process, and how have you changed, and what are you going to take with you? And I would hope that this is something all of us would do some introspection and reflection on, because you know, this is, as Miles, you said, you never want to let a good crisis go to waste. You know, this is one of those things that we as leaders have evolved over the past year. What did we learn, and what are we going to do different? If you want to, and if you're willing to share sort of that your personal thoughts.
Yeah, I don't think that you should wait for a pandemic to invest in self-improvement. I have a coach. I enjoy the coaching process. Part of being effective in a coaching process is being coachable, as my coach would say, and being committed to self-improvement. The only adjective I think you missed in that was exhaustion.
Yes.
There's certainly been moments of that. So I think really it re-clarifies the need. So again, we've talked about work-life balance. There's a seminal opportunity here to get that better and more right, not just for ourselves, but for everyone that works for us. I think that probably communication cannot be at any point in time overstated in terms of its importance. I think the manner in which and the regularity with which we've communicated in the last 18 months is unprecedented. And what we've always known is that the more targeted that communication can be, the more resonant the message becomes. So in my case, in addition to communicating to members, it's active team members, it's recently terminated team members, it's team members on furlough, it's people coming back, it's people going out. It could no longer be a staff update. There needed to be about 5 different staff updates. So I think that the key takeaways for me would be, again, nothing new. For you to do your best, you have to find the right work-life balance and find what works for you. When you're leading other people, communicate. There's nothing that comes above communication. There truly isn't. So really communicating and develop more specific messaging based on the person you're trying to target. I think that would be my 2 big takeaways.
I would say personally, the importance of emotional intelligence has been more prevalent than anything else for me. Expanding my capacity of compassion. I would always like to say that I've always been a pretty compassionate person, but I was challenged, as we all were, in various ways because we always say, you know, we're in the happiness business. You leave your troubles at the gate. It was impossible to do that over the course of this last year with everything that was going on, from the social unrest and the riots and then COVID and the way that impacted people's lives. And so understanding that, you know, you have to be able to manage and lead and coach through adversity, and it's not always possible to leave it at the gate. And so with that, how do you coach through those moments? And again, how you expand your capacity for compassion for your team as well as your members during that. So that was kind of my biggest takeaway, and how I feel like I grew and realized I have even far more opportunity to grow in that area of emotional intelligence.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Space and grace. I think we've all needed it. We're all human. We all need to just take a deep breath and realize that the way we react to situations, or the way that people react to us, or the stressors that they're dealing with in their lives, what's important to them, it's all different. And if we give each other a little bit of space and a little bit of grace to just deal with what we've all been through this year, we're going to get through it.
Well, Casey, and that's an awesome way to end. And I'm going to turn it back to Kate, but before I do that, I do want to thank all of you. Passion, Casey, Miles, this has been a terrific conversation. I so appreciate having the chance to do this for the chapter, as well as having the chance to do this with the three of you. It's something we probably couldn't have done except maybe a world conference, you know, but a Zoom has created all that. So this has been a unique opportunity, and I'm glad to have been part of that. So thank you all very much. And our attendees stayed on through this, so we must have had good conversation. So with that, Kate, I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you.
Absolutely. I just want to echo your sentiments, Jeff. This was an awesome presentation. Your perspectives were awesome and welcomed and appreciated. And so we thank you so very much for your time. And we truly appreciate you and your contribution. Thank you so much.
If there's anything I can follow up on, everyone knows where to find me via the CMAA website. And thank you so much for letting us be a part of it. Good luck with the weather.
Miles, Passion, you guys are awesome. Thank you for allowing us to be here.
Yeah. See you in a few weeks at virtual conference.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.